but this will show you exactly how versatile this particular technique is. Hello, this is BJ from Hearns Hobbies. I'm going to be going through a little tutorial with you today about heat shrink. Now right here, I've got some heat shrink from the overhead camera. Now these are the common sort of sizes of heat shrink we use for covering wire and such. If you're not familiar with heat shrink, what these are is it's a thin material or tube, and this is placed over wires, and then we use heat to actually shrink this to, I guess, insulate that particular wire, usually over solder joints and other components. Now generally with these sizes, these are different sizes, this one's slightly smaller, they generally shrink to about half the size that they are here. So when you're choosing a size of heat shrink to use, you want to pick one which comfortably slides over the thing you want to shrink over for it to work. But quite often we may not have the right size. Now you might see some of the wires we use here, and then some really thin wires like this one here. Now if we were using something like this is something I'd use for very small LEDs in my models, then this sort of thin heat shrink works perfectly because it fits over the top and it's a nice resistance-free sort of cover. But quite often we'd need to say double up wire. So just say I've got these two ends here and we need to solder those together so we get a wide joint, and then we need the heat shrink to fit over it. Now if we try to do it over here, it might just fit, maybe. Just fits, but it's a really tight joint. So it's a good chance that we're not going to actually be able to slide it to where we want it. Bearing in mind that when you cut this and you put it down in end, when you solder it, some heat can travel and it can actually shrink it before you actually get to slide it in the spot. So I've got a little trick to help you make heat shrink work where it's actually a little bit too tight, and that is stretching heat shrink. Now if you've never stretched it before, it's actually really simple to do. Okay, so if we've got this, for example, let me just show you on something that might be a bit easier to see. I've got a resistor here. Now say we soldered both ends here and we want to put heat shrink over it to seal it all off. You see how there's no way that's going over the top of that resistor. But what I'm going to do is I'll stretch it so it goes over there very comfortably. So have a look at this. Now what I'm going to do is we'll cut it to the length we want. Okay, so if our resistor is there, probably want it like 5 mil past each side, so it goes over the joint as well. So let's do this. Okay, so that's the length we want, and we want to slide it over. Well, we need to make sure that this is big enough to go over it. So how do we do that? Well, I use my trusty needle nose pliers. Now these are extra thin pliers, so you really need something extra thin to do heat shrink this thin. But if you were doing thicker stuff and you need to stretch that, well obviously you can use some regular needle nose pliers to get into there. Alright, so here's the action. Basically we fit this over pliers like so, and you gently stretch it by opening from here. Okay, so as you open it, stretching a little at a time. Now you don't want to do it too much, you just want to roll that around, stretch a little bit more, and as we stretch it, the heat shrink will be able to fit over the top a little further. And you're slowly getting all the way through, and you get to at least the middle part. Okay, so you can see how we're slowly doing it. Now the worst that can happen is the heat shrink will split. Now if it splits, then you've gone a little bit too far or a little bit too heavy. But you can see exactly how much wider I've already made it. See that? That's already doubled its size. And if I fit that over here now, we'll probably need to do it a bit more, but I'll give you an idea. See that? It's already covered it. And that didn't take very long at all. So what we'll do is we'll start on the other end now, do exactly the same thing, and eventually we'll meet it in the center, where the center will get stretched as well. Just be a little bit patient with it. So almost there, getting closer. So you can see how it's become a bow tie sort of shape at the moment. The center is still the original diameter, which we want to make it a bit bigger. Okay, so we're halfway there. Flip it around again. Enlarge the other side a bit more. You see how we get into the center there. So obviously this is taking longer because this is actually a very long piece of shrink. If you had it really short, you'd be able to stretch it in no time. But this will show you exactly how versatile this particular technique is. All right, so we're pretty much in the center there now. I probably want to stretch that a little bit more so it goes over the resistor. Okay, so that's what we ended up with. Okay, so that's what it is now. That's what it was. See, massive difference there. Okay, so let's just try it out and see if we stretch it enough. If not, we can just continue getting it a little bit bigger at a time. Okay, so we'll slide this over here. And look at that, it goes all the way through now with absolutely no problem. And that's all you need to do. Easy. So that's for something sort of chunky like that, but just say we had something even chunkier like this bit of wire here. Let's see how it fits over here. Now that doesn't quite work yet, but if we stretch it a little bit more, we'll be able to get it over bigger stuff as well. Now I have to say, I mean, I've been doing this for quite a while, and I've never really overstretched heat shrink. It's very resilient. Okay, so that's quite far now. Open a bit more so I can get it through that thicker wire. Okay, now look at it there. And that's from original. Big difference. Okay, so let's try it again. Try and put it over here. And it's just a little bit tight. Okay, so I'll stretch it a little bit more. Now it's starting to split here, so I'll probably push that a little bit too far because it's stretching the most on that point. But if we try it here, look at that, that's gone through absolutely easily. And the great thing too is, when you stretch thin heat shrink, actually I might use the torn side. Let's put the torn side this way. When you shrink it, it actually shrinks really, really tight. So let me just get my trusty lighter here. This is my blowtorch lighter. And look at how tight that is. That's actually shrunk all the way tight against the wire. That's mega tight. You see this split section? So obviously that's going to look a bit ugly. If you do split it like it, you can always just trim it a little bit and it'll be absolutely fine. So that's it. That is my trick on stretching heat shrink. Really simple to do. It'll save you a lot of time because quite often I don't have that many sizes and you probably don't either. But just like this, it's not going to fit, stretch it a little bit and it's all good. So there you go. That is my simple trick on how to stretch heat shrink to fit through bigger wire. Thank you for watching, and if you liked that tutorial, please give me a like below, and if you'd like to see more content like this, please consider subscribing. So thank you very much.